Hey guys, I'm Archie, and welcome to the 5th video in my SDL2 tutorial series. In the previous video, we took a closer look into polling events, but in this video, we're actually going to improve the graphics that we've set up so far. If we look at what we have a blue background with a pink square in the middle of the screen. So what I want to do today is to make this project nice and organized and cohesive. So we're going to make a separate class for rectangles. So we could spawn different rectangles without doing that in the window class. The reason for this is that the window class is here to manage the window, not any rectangles that we draw. So that's why I want to make a separate class with its own draw function and its own function that pulls its own events. But it's actually going to inherit from the window class because it's going to use the same exact renderer, because we can't really use multiple renderers on the same window. Let's go ahead and make that rect class. So right click on header files, click add, new item, select header file, and call it rect. Program wants that, and create the class rect. And as I said, it's gonna inherit from the window class. So let's include window.h. If you're not familiar with inheritance in C++, I suggest watching a video on that. Just search inheritance in C++. So to inherit from the window class, we're going to put a colon, and we're going to say public window. And again, we're doing this so that we can use the same renderer that the window uses. The first thing we're going to add is a constructor. So let's make that rect. And it's going to take in 3 sets of information. The first thing is the size of the rect, the second is the position of the rect, and the third is the color of the rect. So let's go ahead and do that. Int w for the width, int h for the height, int x for the x coordinate, int y for the y coordinate, and for the color we need an int r, int g, and then int b and int a. What I could have done is I could have made separate structs for all of these, but I didn't want to make anything too confusing. This is pretty straightforward. Next, let's make a private field. And let's make our own size, position, and color variables for this rect. And then we're going to initialize them to whatever was passed in. So we have int w and h. And again, I'm prefixing with underscores to indicate they're member variables. And then int x and y. And for the color, we're going to have int r, g, b, and a. So now let's implement the constructor. So let's copy it and make a new source file. Click add, new item, cpp, and call it rect.cpp. First we'll include rect.h. And let's make the constructor. So we'll put a colon, we'll use the initialization list. We'll say rw is equal to the w that's passed in, rh is the same as the h that's passed in, and I'm going to quickly do that for everything. Alright, so not all our member variables are the same as the constructor variables. But you'll notice there's a little error right here. It says error, no default constructor exists for window. Well, that's because we're inheriting from window and we need to actually initialize window. And to do this, we're actually going to pass in a window reference. Const window, window. And to fix this, all we're going to have to do is just write window with a capital W is equal to the window passed in. And it'll use a copy constructor. Let's go back into rect.h and make sure the constructor matches, like so. And good. So let's go into main.cpp and let's make a rect really quickly. So rect. First we have to pass in a window, which we have right here. Next we need the width and the height, so we'll do 120, 120. Then we need the x and the y. I'll just put that at 100 and 100, not in the middle of the screen. For the color, we'll do the same pink color, so 200, 0, 200, and then for the alpha, we'll put 255. There we go. And I actually forgot to include rect, so make sure you do that. include rect.h. There we go. Next, let's go back into rect.h, and we will make rect's own draw function. So we'll say void draw, and it's going to be const. It's not going to modify anything. And let's go straight to rect.cpp and implement it. There we go. Now let's go into window.cpp, copy all the rect stuff that we have in here, and we'll put that in our rect draw function. Oops. For the width, height, x, and y, we already have that information because we copied it from the constructor into our own member variables. So we'll do rect.w equals w, rect.h equals h. We'll say rect.x equals x, and rect.y equals y. There we go, that's the rect's position. Now we have a problem here. We don't have a renderer. Well, this is why we chose to inherit from the window class. Currently, if we go to window.h, the renderer here is private, which means you can't inherit it. But if we just change this field to protected, then we can go back to rect.cpp, and there's no error anymore. Now we're using the same renderer that the window is using. If you're not familiar with the protected keyword, protected means that this variable can only be accessed in this class and any class that inherits from this class, but nowhere else. So it's almost like a combination of public and private. So now we have our rect's draw function. And if we go into main.cpp, we can actually call the rect's draw function right at the top, rect.draw. If we run it, what happens? Well, we don't see any rect. The reason for this is this. Go into window.cpp, it's the order of these. Render present is the end right now. So let's think about what this is doing. So let's go back to main and read this line by line. So first we have rect.draw. If we go to the rect.draw function, it creates a rect, it gives it the width and height, and then the x and y, and then it gives it a color, and then it puts it onto the renderer. Then, if we go to main, we do window.clear. So if we look at window.clear, first that gives the renderer a new color, and it clears that onto the renderer, and then it presents that. So the order here is wrong. What we're doing is first we're drawing the rectangle, and then we're drawing the blue background. We want to do the opposite. We want to draw the blue background first, and then the rect on top, so that we can see the rectangle. So to do that, all we have to do is just move this render present to the top. Now what this is going to do is it's going to draw the rect first, then present that, and then it's going to draw the blue background, and then it's going to repeat the process. Now we're actually going to see the pink rectangle on top. So if we run this, here's our pink rectangle. Remember, I set it at 100, 100, not in the middle of the screen. But it clearly works. So we have our own rect class that's totally separate from the window class. And this just makes a lot more structural sense. Our window should not be responsible for drawing our rect, just like our rect should not be responsible for maintaining our window. So we have two separate classes, although rect inherits the renderer from the window, because we want to use the same renderer for both classes. In the next video, I'll actually show you how to move the rect that we've drawn around the screen. And we'll actually give this rect class its own poll events function. I hope this video is helpful, and I'll see you next time.